11:52 p.m. at night. Obviously, there's a clock issue with my computer today.
Yeah, I think so.
Little bit.
That must be Hayward time.
I don't know what time it is, and I have no idea why it happened, but hey.
Certainly Wisconsin time.
Yeah,
Parallel
I think-
universe.
I think it's 11:52 in the morning.
Okay, are we ready?
Okay, we'll see, Grandma.
I would say, yes, we're ready.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we will all get started.
Yes.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Thank you, Queenie.
Kathy?
Oh, I just made you a co-host. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Okay. I think we are good. So welcome to our One Summit here in District 5960. So here are the ground rules for today. Please stay muted during the presentations. Enter all questions into the chat box and send them directly to Mike Becker. It is important that you have paper and pencil to jot down notes because this hour will be full of good ideas. And if you have questions afterwards and want to contact me directly, you can at dquigley5960@gmail.com. So here is our game plan for today. We'll have a welcome by our district governor, Ed Merrick, who we're fortunate to have with us. We're going to do an intro, the like life. I think there's a misspelling there. It's all about the circle. We'll have cutting edge info from above, successful club strategies, and a how-to at the end of our panel discussion. And then we will have 30 minutes of question and answers. So please be ready and please jot down as we go along those questions directly to Mike Becker. Okay, so Ed, you are up.
Thank you, Dale. Well, hello and welcome to this second session of District 5960's One Rotary Summit. Rotary International President Holgar's theme, Rotary Opens Opportunities, is, like I said before, so appropriate this year with the unprecedented challenges we face. Last January at the International Assembly in San Diego, Holgar shared it is a time to be bold and make revolutionary change. To support you in these challenging times, we're offering 3 separate sessions for this year's One Rotary Summit. One on membership, today's on foundation, and next Monday on public image. These sessions offer a bit deeper dive than we've done in previous One Rotary Summits, and this gives us the opportunity to share strategies and tools for you and your club to thrive in the future. Thank you for attending this session and for your commitment to opening opportunities. Dale?
Ed, thank you so much. I think most of us have seen over the past year or two Rotary International's vision, and it's fabulous, really. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. I think what we are less aware of is that they have a strategic plan. And for those of you who attended last Thursday, I realize this is a review, but we have new people on today, and so it's important that we go through this. So Rotary International has 4 priorities. One is to increase our impact. There is always more good that we can do in the world to allow people to reach their potential. We need to increase our reach. We need to take our arms and spread them wide and find other people in our communities who are already Rotarians in their hearts and in their minds. They just simply do not have a membership. We need to enhance our engagement. We need to reach out to our members already and have them be active participants in what we're doing. The more people we have, the more we can accomplish. And if nothing else, we need to adapt. If we are not moving forward, we are falling behind, and the world is changing at an amazing pace. So as an organization, we need to adapt. In the past, Rotary has looked at pillars or silos with membership, foundation, public image in their own separate silo, but it doesn't really work that way. These 3 are interconnected. So if we look at it, as I say, like life, everything's a circle. Membership, the Rotary Foundation, and public image all feed off of each other. When we increase membership, then we most likely, and for all intents and purposes, will increase what gets given to the Rotary Foundation. And what gets given to the Rotary Foundation turns into projects out in the world doing good. And the more projects we do, the better our public image, the more people know about us, and the more members we have. So it's interesting if we take a look at these and how they overlap together. So here we have the 4 strategic priorities by Rotary International. And if we take our pillars and wrap them around, this is what we see. So if we increase our membership, we have more donors, we do greater projects and more projects, we have stronger clubs, increased enhancement, and an increased positive public image, which just feeds right back into increased membership and the more good that we can do in the world. So today, our panelists or team, for all of you who saw the big polio push this past month, right? It was all based on being a team. So today's panelists, our 4 panelists, we've got Kyle Hagen talking about when 6 becomes 7, Paul Holstein, what's a team without a coach? Peggy Strong, what's a game if you don't know the score? And finally, our how-to, Cheryl Edvinson with what good are reward points if you don't know how to use them? So all of our panelists have 5 minutes to talk with us today. And as I said, we will then be open for questions and answers for 30 minutes. So I am going to unshare my screen and turn it over to Kyle Hagen.
Thanks, Dale. And thanks for everybody being here today. I'm excited to share a few things that are happening regarding the Rotary Foundation at the international level and here in our district. I'll start with the broader Rotary Foundation, and I think there are 3 things that people should know about. First, you may have heard the news, but we'll be adding a 7th area focus next Rotary year when the environment comes aboard July 1st. For the last few years, more and more grants have had to do with environmental sustainability and creating a positive impact on our environment, and Rotarians throughout the world asked for broader attention to be placed in this area. The foundation trustees studied the issue and determined that the best way to move forward is to add the environment as a standalone area of focus. If you're interested in learning more information will be coming out the first part of 2021 about potential projects and what will exactly fit. But if you have more questions, please reach out. Second, I want to make sure that you are aware of the Rotary Foundation's Disaster Response Fund. This was started a few years ago to give Rotarians a quicker way to respond to natural disasters, but was used sparingly. The Disaster Response Fund took center stage earlier this year as it's been utilized to fund grants related to COVID-19. If you or your club want to make a contribution to the Disaster Response Fund, you can do that. While you get credit towards a Paul Harris Fellow, the funds are not part of the amount that will be coming back to our district and grants though in the future. The third piece of news from the broader Rotary Foundation world is not as cheery. Because of the ever increasing attention to global grants over the past 10 years, coupled with fairly limited increase in contributions each year, the World Fund, which matches global grant requests from clubs, is running low on funds available. This year, the foundation trustees removed the match of club contributions to grants and will only match district designated funds from districts. And it appears that the World Fund will be running out of matching funds by the end of December this year, meaning that any global grants will have to wait to get funded until next year if they're not approved before they run out. So what does this mean? If you're able to increase your gift to the Rotary Foundation's annual fund, it's a great time to do it. For some updates here in our district, we're doing some great things to increase the impact we can have through the Rotary Foundation. On the grant side of things, we rolled out new guidelines for global grants this year, designed to level the playing field and get the funds to beneficiaries more quickly. From a fundraising side, we've introduced a new role, a foundation coach, which I'm really excited about, and Paul will tell you about in a few minutes. Regarding polio, we just finished our Strikeout polio campaign in October that coincided with World Polio Day, and it was a great success. As Jill shares the screen, here are the giving numbers for October polio giving over the past few years, and we'll get to that so you can study these for a second. So that's the giving just in October for polio. in the last 3 Rotary years. Now with our efforts this year, thanks to all of you, our efforts blew those out of the water. 196 donors, 56,000 in contributions, 92 people that gave at least 365, and 55. Now that new donors is new donors to Polio Plus. So we had 55 people that gave to Polio Plus for the first time. And out of those 196 overall people, 13 of them gave their first ever contribution to the Rotary Foundation. So for all of you that have given so far, thank you. These numbers are not quite official yet because there's still some checks that are being processed by the Rotary Foundation, but it's just, it's very exciting to see. And I think you can agree that with the success of Strikeout Polio and our push for $400,000 in June, we're seeing how good things happen when a coordinated plan that brings information and excitement forward works. Hopefully your clubs do this with everything, not just related to the foundation, but in all aspects of your club. That's when you'll be as successful as possible. Dale?
Okay, thank you so much, Kyle. Coming up next, we now have Paul Holstein. What would we do if we didn't have a coach?
Great, thanks, Dale. So I'm here to talk about the role of a foundation coach. So 5 years ago, a group of us sat down to talk about how we can increase foundation giving here in their district. First thing we agreed upon was that we would have to be a committee. Correct that, a team. Sorry, Becker. We were not going to be successful if it was only one person involved in this event. Over the past 5 years, we've looked at clubs that have had the most success at foundation giving. And one of the biggest keys is that there was not just a foundation chair working solo. It's that there's a number of people in the club working together to promote the foundation, encouraging giving, making the ask to members. It's the same on the grant side of things. With any grant, the Rotary Foundation asks for a main contact, but also 2 additional contacts within the club that'll be involved with the grant. Not only does this create continuity over time, but more hands make lighter work. You can do more and get more accomplished when more people are involved. So just like on any team, it's important that we put the right people in positions to be successful. And it's the same when it comes to encouraging members to give to the foundation. Find people within your club that aren't bashful about asking people to give, that believe in the Rotary Foundation. Start by looking through your club's recognition summary. We can provide this if you don't have access to it. We can see who the people are that are at the highest levels of recognition. Those are the people in your club that believe in the Rotary Foundation and can use their passion to engage others. I just said that the 2 most important qualities in people to be on your foundation team are that they are willing to ask others to give and that they are passionate about the Rotary Foundation. Notice what I didn't say. They do not have to be knowledgeable about the foundation. We all know the foundation is a complex organization. You don't have to know every detail. In fact, not many people do. But that's why we've added to our district team this year and created to the role of a foundation coach. So what is a foundation coach? Well, first of all, we have 9 of them. They are in charge of 5 to 6 clubs each in our district. Their role is to work one-on-one with a club to engage the club's leadership and build a culture of foundation participation. We understand how difficult it is to do everything within your club, and that's why these coaches are there to provide suggestions, resources, energy, and motivation to help you increase your members' knowledge of the foundation and different opportunities available to them, and their passion towards making the foundation one of their charities of choice. This is a new position, new program. We're just getting the ball rolling. We'll see how this is going to be an ongoing role that will help build significant culture of giving in our district. Along the way, if there are any resources you think would be useful or anything we can do to help your clubs in any way, please let us know. That way we can be most effective and efficient in what we deliver. Back to you, Dale.
Paul, thank you so much for being a coach. and for leading us all on this team. We have coming up next is Peggy Strong, who's going to talk about what's a game if you don't know the score.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm going to speak a little bit about my own journey here. I have been a member of the Arden Hills Shoreview Rotary Club for 24 years. And I've been a very dedicated Rotarian in terms of my commitment to our club. I was president twice and treasurer, and currently am foundation chair. But I don't have a long history with the foundation. In fact, for the first 20 probably of those 24 years, I was a minimal giver to the foundation, even though I was excited about Rotary. Our club happens to build a contribution to the foundation into our dues. Whether you think that's a good thing or not, I don't know, but we've done that for a long time. So we do the E-Ray in our club. But I didn't give beyond that, quite frankly, much of anything until probably about 4 years ago. So 20 years in, I'm now excited about the foundation. And why is that? Well, I think I sat through a number of foundation presentations over the years that were too technical, focused on all the mechanics of the foundation, which we know is complicated. And it really wasn't until I think it was about 4 years ago when Kyle Haugen came to speak to our club and made a more emotional appeal, talked about what it meant to him. And something about that really hit me. So I went home that day and wrote my first, significant check to the foundation. And from there, I've become a major donor. So I guess my message to you is that I think it's really very important to focus on the emotional side of things when we're looking to boost our foundation giving. So it's really about the pride that people feel when they're giving to an organization like the foundation that they really feel good about, and they can see the impact. So rather than focusing on, how to give and the mechanics, focus on what the foundation has done. And what hit me that day about 4 years ago was, wow, I mean, this organization is very unique. It's got global impact. It's been around a long time. It's exceedingly well run. The fact that it gets a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator, that really hit me at the time. I remember thinking that too, like, wow, that's important. Your money is being well spent. So all those things really motivated me to start becoming a donor. And I'm confident that it will have the same impact on others. So when you're trying to encourage people in your clubs to give to the foundation, again, focus on creating an emotional response. And I'm also involved in a community foundation, the Shoreview Community Foundation. I've been through some training related to that. And according to the experts on development, saying we need money means nothing to people. It really has to, it's what it can do for the person, what emotional response they can have when they feel like they're giving to something that is important to them. That's what matters. It's not that the organization needs money that matters. It's what does it mean to the person who's giving. So these new foundation coaches that was mentioned, and I'm one of those new to the role. We're here to help you in this effort. We understand that you don't have the time or probably the resources to develop presentations on your own. So the team has put together some nice presentations that that you can utilize. And we're also here to help and would love to participate in a club meeting to help you with doing that in your own club. So lastly, as Paul mentioned, we want to hear from you about what we can do to help you, whether it's resources, assistance, making a plan. That's what the foundation coaches are here to do.
Peggy, thank you so much for telling us your story, because I think oftentimes we can relate to stories and how that affects us, or a similar story that leads us to move forward. We have our final panelist today, who is Cheryl Edvinson, and she is going to talk about what good are reward points if you don't know how to use them. Cheryl?
Thank you, Dale. And let me give you a little background on myself. I might be a new face to some of you. I'm a member of the Rotary Club of LeSueur, and 5 years ago, our past district governor, Newell Krogman, came to me and said, would you be the team leader for the foundation of our club? And I said, yes. And I had no idea what I was getting into. I'd been a contributor to the foundation, but didn't know a lot of the workings. And it was, oh, by the way, November is National Foundation, or is the Rotary Foundation Month. So have a Rotary Foundation program every meeting, every weekly meeting in the month of November. And I went, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? But it was a great way to become a fast learner about the Rotary Foundation. Peggy mentioned that it's important to engage with members in order to get them to participate more with the Rotary Foundation, and that emotional connection is key. And that starts with the why and focusing on the impact of what we do as Rotarians. When I first entered my role, we had about 50 to 55% contribution of our members to the Rotary Foundation. And I'm pleased to say, through some help from the district, that we were able to meet our stretch goal. And 5 years ago, we became an E-Ray club, every Rotarian every year, and we've carried on that tradition. But it's the emotional appeal that really makes a difference. And it's also important that we celebrate our successes. When looking at the projects our clubs implement through the grants process, the most successful clubs are those that communicate the grant impact, the progress, and the success to their members. That way, club members really have a better understanding of what is being done, are more excited about the project, and are more willing to be involved with the current and also with future projects. And this is really how to engage your members in all aspects of Rotary, as we talked about those pillars that Dale shared with us earlier. When people are more engaged, they're more willing to donate more to the foundation as well. And it's important to say thank you and to recognize your members for their efforts and their contributions. Now, think about your own club. Does your club recognize Paul Harris Fellows or other significant donor achievements at meetings? Clubs that do a good job recognizing member giving tend to have higher participation levels. Not only do people feel pride when being recognized, it's an opportunity to promote the impact, the why of the Rotary Foundation to others, which will increase the likelihood they'll participate as well in this year and in future years as well. It's not just giving that can be recognized either. We can recognize people in our clubs or our community for their efforts in making a positive impact in the world around us. This is done through foundation recognition points. And this was a very foreign concept when I was first recruited into my foundation position. These points are for all of us. They're points for all of us, our clubs, and we receive them when we give to the Rotary Foundation. For every dollar you give to the foundation, you get a recognition point, and this is important. These points can be used to honor someone as a Paul Harris Fellow for their efforts or to incentivize members to give to the Rotary Foundation. It doesn't take any dollars out of your pocket. We can distribute these points to club members and to others in our community. For example, in the push for 400,000 K last June and the recent Strikeout Polio in October, recognition points were used to create incentives for people to give. Now, you have points and your club has points. This is one of those, I think, secrets to some of us on how do we know how many points we are and how do we use them. To bring recognition points to life, I'll share an example. You have given $2,000 total to the Rotary Foundation over time, which means you are a Paul Harris Fellow +1. You get a Paul Harris for your first 1,000 +1 for your second 1,000. Along with the credit you've received, you have 2,000 recognition points. So you could use 1,000 of your points to award a Paul Harris Fellow to someone who you feel embodies service above self, or to encourage members of your club to give, and you will match their contributions, getting them closer to a Paul Harris Fellow. Dale's going to share some slides with us. So you have these points. How do you know how many points you have? Rotary International keeps track of our points. You can find out how many points, recognition points you have by signing in to myrotary.org and clicking on My Donations. There's an arrow pointing to it on the screen in the upper right-hand corner there. From there, click on your donor history report twice to open it, and you can find your foundation recognition points available in the upper right part of the donor report. Now we just have X's there, but there will be a number there that matches the number of dollars that you have contributed. You get 1 point for every dollar you've contributed, and it's a running total. Over the years, I've used some of my points to recognize others, so then they will be deducted, and as I contribute more dollars, I also will increase the points. If you would like to award someone with a Paul Harris Fellow using your points, it's very easy. Simply call the Rotary Contact Center at 1-866-9-ROTARY. Let me repeat that, 1-866-9-ROTARY, and tell one of the Contact Center staff members you want to use points to award a Paul Harris Fellow. They will find your records based on your name and your club, and then walk you through the process. All you need is the name and address of the person that you'd like to honor. I've done this on a couple of occasions. As the foundation team leader of our club, I've also helped other people do that. And if you have questions, I'm sure your coaches would be very willing to work with you to make sure that you use those recognition points. They aren't doing any good sitting on a spreadsheet someplace. They're there to be used. So I encourage you to consider how you can use them in your club and in your community as well. Obviously, providing recognition to people is also a great way to promote your club and what Rotary does. It's a win-win in many ways. Back to you, Dale.
Thank you, Cheryl, so much. Actually, I'd like to thank all of our panelists right now for putting together this great team for us today. And that includes Kyle, Paul, Peggy, and Cheryl. And we are now going to open up for questions and then obviously answers from our panelists. And I believe that Mike Becker has been collecting those for us. So I'm going to pass the baton off to Mike. Are you there?
I am. Do you want the first one?
Yes, please.
Oh, the first one comes from Mr. Colgan. He wants to know if coaches get special jerseys and hats. A lighthearted way to start it. Charlie, go see Kyle. Okay, Susan is asking, where do we find out who our club's coach is? Kyle, do you want to take that?
Sure, I can. The coaches, and this is all very new. We just identified which coaches will be connecting with clubs in the last 40 days. So they should be reaching out to you. If they haven't yet, you can reach out to me or Kathy Hewitt, and we can connect you in the right direction there. I know, obviously, with it being an interesting time, some of the coaches are a little bit tied up with other things in the short term, but they're all gung ho on creating long lasting relationships there. So if you need to know who your coach is, let me or Kathy know.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. Ken Galloway sent, it's a little bit long, but I'm going to read part and paraphrase a little bit. He was watching a Bill Gates interview on public television regarding the fight against polio and how they were working closely with the WHO and the CDC in their battle against polio, but never mentioned Rotary at any time. And he he was troubled by that as a longtime donor who was under the impression Rotary was the leader in this effort in past decades. His question is, I'm curious if anybody in the Rotary's leadership was aware of this interview and if there was any response to the Gates Foundation regarding that omission.
I think I can take this one, although I don't want to take all of them, Mike. With any media out there, you can only control what you can control. And certainly if it's public television or a news article or whatever, we aren't going to be able to get full credit in all those. Is Rotary a substantial partner? Yes. We are one of the linchpins that's holding the Global Polio Eradication Initiative together. And certainly when someone like Bill Gates is involved, he's going to get top billing. And that's just the way it is. And Bill Gates is a huge supporter of Rotary. That's why he's matched every dollar Rotarians have given since 2007, 2-1. He believes in us. He believes in what we're doing with the cause. Do we get all the recognition we ever want? No, we don't. But I think it's important for us to be doing things in our communities to make sure that we're promoting what we're doing as well. Charlie Cogan, who's on the call, had a great letter to the editor in the Star Tribune 45 or 60 days ago that talked about Rotary's role in polio eradication. The more we do things like that, that is what we can control. And if it's something, doing an event in our local community that helps people understand what Rotary does regarding polio and gets the community to raise money for it, or writing to the local newspapers, or whatever it is there, the more we can do, that's what we can control. And certainly at the high up levels, I can tell you that there are conversations between the International Polio Plus Committee that Rotary has internally, along with John Huco, the General Secretary, CEO of Rotary. They're having conversations all the time with leaders throughout the world. And, I think at this point, it's about, let's get the job done. And then we'll worry about the promotional campaign that comes with it at that point. But we have to get to that point first. And in the meantime, for those interviews, yeah, it makes my blood not boil, but turn up a little bit too when I don't see Rotary mentioned. And but that's the pride that we all have. And like I said, we can just do what we can do.
Thanks, Kyle. Simple Simon from Mankato, better known as DGE Kenny, he says, we always talk about E-Ray. Maybe not everybody knows what about it. Can you explain some of these acronyms? Bueller? Paul, you want to take that one?
I can. Sure. E-Ray, every Rotarian, every year. We don't necessarily specify amount to that, but we would like it to be $25 to giving to the foundation every Rotarian every year. We've got another acronym. I think we're calling it the 365 plus is what we're doing. If you had given $365 to polio, or back in June, you gave $365 to the annual fund, you were awarded points to make yourself a Paul Harris Fellow. There's another acronym that I'm missing. Mike, did you have another one?
No, I think that was just a general question using E-Ray as an example. Nod your head if that's right, Kenny. There you go. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Maybe Cheryl, you can answer this one. Regarding points, Richard's asking, what about club points? I'm new to this, but I see points listed by individual names, but I also see a large number of points at the top of the table. What are those? And how do you recommend using them?
Very good question. I can give experience from my club work with points. In the past, our club has had fundraisers, and we have dedicated the profits of those fundraisers. For example, we gave a significant amount to the Polio Plus campaign. In that case, those points that were given as a club were recognized as club points to be used in various ways. What we have done in the past, we have a number of partners in our community that help with our backpack weekend food program for students and families in need. And we have some local people who have been significant in their contributions to that, even though they aren't Rotarians. They have been significantly involved in providing some produce for our backpack food program. So we took it upon ourselves to give some kind of recognition. And this is where you can recognize club members, or you can recognize community members. In this case, we took those club points, and those are funds that we had raised as a club to give to Polio Plus. So we took those club points and then applied them to provide a community member with a Paul Harris Fellow recognition. So it was a way of extending some recognition and appreciation for their help in helping us with that food program. There might be other examples. Anybody else want to contribute?
I think maybe that was the big, I think maybe that was the big question, was there individual points and club points, and how do they differ? And the biggest part being is that oftentimes clubs will donate an amount of money either to the foundation or to the Polio Plus. And instead of those points being distributed among the club members, it's given to the club as a whole. And then the club can go ahead and give those points out as a Paul Harris Fellow to somebody else.
Sure. And this is Kyle. And the other thing that you can do is exactly what we've done with the push for $400,000 in the Strikeout Polio campaign, in that we use those points as incentives for people to give as well. And that's not something necessarily new in our district. Several clubs that I know of have done direct matches, like around World Polio Day, where it might be a 2-to-1 match or a 4-to-1 match, or one club had a 6-to-1 match one year where if somebody gave $167, they became a Paul Harris Fellow because the club had enough points. So like Cheryl said, you can recognize people for their efforts. Certainly a great way to do that for people that embody service above self, even club members that are doing it through service and not giving. It's still recognizing them as helping change the world, but it can also be used as an incentive.
Okay. Paul, this one's for you. Are the coaches an RI program, and do any other districts have it?
So the coaches are not an RI program. And I'm not sure if any other district has it. Kyle, does 5950 have it? Nod your head. We are unique in that we have started this. Maybe it's something that will expand on to other districts, but right now we are doing this as a district 5960.
Okay, thanks. This one I'm going to direct to Cheryl because it's been asked directly of you, and it's a little bit two-part. Have people found that incentivizing people with matching points increases the members' donations? And I'll let you answer that one before I go to the next one.
I believe the incentives do. We have had great success recently with our push to 400,000 and our Strikeout Polio campaign. I think it helps build awareness, and it's a way to leverage people and get them in the habit of contributing to the foundation. And I think once you have a history of giving, it's easier to give the next time that you're asked, or the next year, when you have the ability to either give to the annual fund or to Polio Plus.
This is Peggy. Maybe, can I add to that?
Please do.
Probably 6 months ago, I would have said, no, I don't think it really matters that much, because I'm not sure it matters to me personally. But I will say the end of the fiscal year push, the $400,000 push, with giving Paul Harris Fellow for the 365 contribution was extremely successful in our club. We had a third of our members donate at least 365 and sometimes more. So obviously it does matter.
Okay, Peggy, stay on because I have one for you. Do you think the points confuse persons when we talk points rather than dollars?
Maybe. I think I'm still confused about it, frankly. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm sort of new to this, even though I've been in Rotary for 24 years. So I've never been really sure how much. I've always been a little shy in our club to talk about even when we do announce our Paul Harris Fellows. And by the way, our club has become a very strong giving club. In addition to the amount that's built into dues, we've got an average giving of over $500 in our club. So we have a number of our members who have given generously beyond just the $50 a year in our dues. So I think that giving the recognition helps, and I think it's just important not to get too focused on the dollar amount. As I said, I've been a little shy because I'm never quite sure how much to share with the club. And so maybe I'm asking all of you too. I've never been quite sure how much to share with people about this recognition. We have one particular member who's been a member for many years. He's given very generously over the years, and he has said he doesn't want any more recognition. He's at the +9 and way beyond that. So he doesn't want to be recognized anymore. And so we have to be careful about that too. But yeah, I'm still kind of walking that fine line myself.
It's easy to maybe get confused with that. Let me go back to another question that was asked, and possibly Kyle, you can help answer this. Can you tell us what communications non-Rotarians receive to explain what a Paul Harris Fellow is and why they got that recognition?
I think a lot of times what will happen is if you or your club is using recognition points to make someone a Paul Harris Fellow, when you call the Rotary Contact Center, they're going to walk through who is it for. So if I wanted to make, I'm going to go purely hypothetical here because we know it's not going to happen. If I wanted to make Mike Becker a Paul Harris Fellow, they would ask, what's their name, address, and then they're going to ask us an important question, and that's who is or where do you want these materials to be sent? I would suggest that you should always have them sent to you, because then either you as the Rotarian making that award personally, or as your club making that award to an honorary Paul Harris Fellow, you have the ability to make that presentation. And that's where the making it special and making it important is able to be done. Not just saying, oh, here, I made you a Paul Harris Fellow, but by saying, in Rotary, we do good things around the world. And one of the ways we recognize people for their actions and for their donations is by awarding a Paul Harris Fellow. And, again, hypothetically, Mike, I appreciate everything that you do to help the world around you be a better place. And I'd like to award you with this Paul Harris Fellowship. And I think that helps get that to be more special. You can go on Rotary.org and find different scripts of awarding a Paul Harris Fellow. I will say that they're probably too wordy. So if you ever want, just reach out to me and I can send you the 5 sentences that I just used. And I think you tweak it and it's heartfelt, and that's the important part of it.
I agree, Kyle. Something that we have done and have a history of doing is at the end of the year when we're changing our officers, we have a special event where we invite spouses, special guests, significant others, and often we are presenting those awards at that point in time. And if we are using points, it's a way to educate our members and their guests and the people that we've recognized on what the significance of a Paul Harris Fellow recognition, and then give some background on the points so they understand where it came from. But it serves to serve as a recognition event, but it also serves as a means to educate both our members and the guests as well in the community. And we live in, our club is a small town, so those things can be submitted to the local newspaper, so you can get some leverage and some public image as a result of that as well.
Mike, if I could I have Paul talk a little bit about, because Cheryl just hit a good point of the ongoing recognition of members for their Paul Harris Fellows as well. Paul, do you want to touch on the importance of doing that on a consistent basis with that messaging?
Well, let me
ulterior motive?
interject a question with that.
Okay.
That might be
Fine.
pertinent to it. It's asked of Paul, as a club leader, how can I answer the question of, is all the money just polio, or what am I being asked to give for?
So I'll address that question first, and I'll come back to Kyle's comment on the Paul Harris Fellows. There are different buckets for the foundation, and we give to the annual fund and to Polio Plus pretty much directly. The third bucket I would say is the endowment, which is mostly funded through some sort of estate planning, but doesn't have to be. But let's just address the annual fund versus Polio Plus. So the annual fund is the money that we use eventually. 3 years is when RI gives it, half of it back to us, for our district grants, for our global grants, for Polio Plus from a district level. If you give money directly to Polio Plus, that is what that money goes to. It goes specifically to polio right then and there, right away. So 2 separate buckets that we typically are asking for money at the district and club level. Back to Kyle's point on Paul Harris Fellow recognition for clubs. We started this some time ago where we would recognize those who have achieved a Paul Harris level in our club meetings, whether that's the 1st or the 9th. And we would have them come up, and we would, the club president would receive all of the Paul Harris Fellow pins and such. As a foundation chair, I would get those, and we would invite the people up in the course of a meeting. We changed how we did that to reflect what I felt was the spirit of the Rotary Foundation, in that we were actually thanking the people for donating, not congratulating them so much, but basically thanking them for donating to the foundation at whatever level they were at, whether it be their first Paul Harris Fellow, which I tend to make a bigger deal out of because I think that person deserves that encouragement, or whether it's the Paul Harris Fellow +7. So we think it's very, very important at the club level to recognize members, unless, of course, to Cheryl's point, if they don't want the recognition. But it's not there just for the member themselves. It's also there for everybody in the room to generate the excitement where people can see other club members that are giving to the foundation and thinking, maybe I should be doing that. So I think it helps greatly.
Okay, and I did interrupt you with that question, but do you want to finish what Kyle asked you?
I think that's what I just did.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that you got everything in, because it was kind of a compound question. Next time I'll start listening to you. Sorry. No, I'm kidding. I think this one's directed to either Kyle or Paul. Do we have any new ideas for how to get them onto the website and enter goals before the year begins? And can coaches help with that? I don't know if that's just directed to president-elects or what, but Or is that individuals that we can do that for? Why don't you take that?
Well, I can say, for example, one of the coaches' duties will absolutely be in the future to work with the foundation chair of the club and the president-elect to work on those goals in the future. And so that we can have goals for each club in regards to Polio Plus and to the annual fund. Now, as Kyle said, we're about 40 days into this coaching. And so that's where we will get to. And hopefully we'll get there for the most part for the 2021-2022 season, year of Rotary.
Okay, great. Kyle, how do the coaches differ from the club foundation, our club foundation committee chairperson?
I think the coaches are the district resource that can come in and help that foundation chair. I like to call them champions because they should be champions. They're the people that are going to act as a go-between to help a club leadership, not just the foundation chair, but the president-elect to really understand what's going on with the Rotary Foundation, giving tips, tricks, resources, energy, motivation, feedback, recognition, all of those things to help make the job of club foundation leadership better. We're all volunteers, and certainly I think many of us on this meeting have been club president. You don't know which way's up and down half the time. And to try to, over the course of a year or year and a half, create a culture within your club on your own of giving and participating with the Rotary Foundation is nearly impossible. And to have a foundation chair within the club that is passionate, energetic, and willing to build that culture is few and far between. And so what I hope and what we hope the role of these coaches is to be that coach, really, for lack of a better term, to help the club level people succeed, to get engaged, to understand what everything means, to answer questions. And I think my dad's on the call. We've oftentimes in our business life, the whole method of training is the CASH formula: knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. Well, if we don't have somebody helping us build knowledge, build skills, build habits, and giving us pep talks and everything, and without the other three, you're not going to have a good attitude. Without those things, we're not going to be successful. So I hope that this coach role is one that can work with club leadership over time to build that culture. So it doesn't always just fall on a foundation chair.
Perfect. Dale?
Okay, so maybe ask Kyle to talk about one more thing, only because I thought it was such a fabulous idea. And this will probably be our last question before we kind of sum this up. But Kyle, do you want to tell people how the clubs were assigned, since you guys have taken such a team attitude on the foundation team?
Sure. We wanted to make sure that it was somewhat of a level playing field and that none of the coaches got all of the top giving clubs or some of the clubs that don't do a very good job. So what Paul and I did was we took all the clubs in the district and looked at their annual fund giving over the last couple of years, averaged that out, their Polio Plus giving over the last couple of years, averaged that out, the percentage of members that give to the Rotary Foundation, because that's important, because some clubs, if you have a couple of really significant donors, it makes the club look really good, but in actuality, it might be 10 or 15% of the club that's actually doing the work. And then we looked at how the clubs had been in terms of entering their goals into Rotary Club Central. Tiered all of those off and then added up where you were in all the tiers and came up with 7 tiers of clubs. And then in the draft, we had a draft because I was trying to figure out how to get these because, you know, Dale may have a relationship with a club that she wants to be involved helping that club or whatever. So we had a draft. The two rules were that you couldn't draft more than one club from each tier. So it was equitable then, that you got 1 through 7, and you couldn't draft your own club. And there were 6 or 7 of the 9 coaches on the draft. I drafted the rest, but it was a great time. They went back and forth, and Sarah Buttriff from Farmington, who's one of the coaches who couldn't be here today because she is flying back from somewhere much warmer than here today, kept getting upset because she had done prep before the draft on some of the clubs that she wanted, and people kept picking them right before her. So she put as much effort as somebody would into a fantasy football draft, and kept getting upset when people kept stealing her picks. But it was a great time, and we'll have a little internal competition over the course of the year to see at the end of the year then how where the clubs finish at the end of the year in terms of tiers, to see which coach had the most impact on their clubs. And to Joan Fawcett's point, yes, there is a fellow recognition transfer form. Joan, I guarantee though, calling 1-866-9-Rotary is going to take way less time, and you don't have to do it all yourself. So that's why we said call to transfer points.
Well, I've used it and it works just fine. We get
Yeah.
reply. So, okay.
But you're savvy
another
and
option.
all that stuff.
Another option.
Okay. Yep.
Some of us are not quite as savvy. All right, so we are down to the wire here. So let me, first of all, let me thank the panel so much for putting this together and coming on today. So once again, that's to Kyle, Paul, Peggy, and Cheryl. Thank you so much for coming on and for giving us your insights and ideas today as we all move forward. I think it's going to be just a great year for the foundation. I think huge strides have been made. I think Kyle has one more thing he wants to say or something. Yes. Okay. So let me just say
okay. One thing I do want to acknowledge, we've talked a lot about the foundation fundraising side of things today, but Margie Horning, our grants team leader, and her grants team are fantastic on the spending money side of things, and do a great job with that. So if anybody ever has any questions on how we can spend money more effectively and efficiently, Margie is the best person to talk to there. But just wanted to make sure we at least shouted out and didn't ignore Margie, because she makes the world go round.
Yes, she does. She so makes the world go round. And really, the whole goal to raising funds is not to accumulate funds. It's the good that we can do with the funds. That's what's really important. It's the impact we can make that makes all the fundraising worthwhile. There will be a resource sheet that after the meeting will get sent out to everybody, and it includes things such as how to get in touch with Kyle and how to get in touch with Margie, as well as the step-by-step of how to go find your points at the Rotary Foundation. We will keep the window or the room open for the next 15 minutes, kind of have a town hall discussion for anybody who wants to hang out and share ideas. We will do that for the next 15 minutes or so. But thank you all so much for coming, and realize next Monday, 1 week from tonight, we will do the final installment, which will all be about public image. We have Kathy Fahey coming from up above and coming to talk to us, as well as how to use the People of Action application and how to put things on Facebook, etc. It will be another exciting event, fast and furious. So anyway, thank you all to our panel. Thank you, Ed Merrick, for coming today and welcoming us all. And thank you, Mike Becker. And finally, the final thank you has to go to Kathy Hewitt, who makes this whole thing possible. So I'll be hanging out for anybody else who wants to, and we'll have a little town hall session here and exchange ideas. Thank you all for coming. All right. I gotta change my view here so I can see everybody.
Dale, we had Susan kind of send something that would be pertinent for this point. She has to click off in a minute. She'd like to share something about her club, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Susan.
Hello, thanks for this session. Appreciate it. And thanks, Mike, for bringing this up. So I think in my club, we have a relatively small club, or West St. Paul, Mendota Heights. And I've been the foundation chair for years, and I work in development. So I'm very familiar with how this all works. But I think the challenge that my club faces is that we have incredible participation at the club level. So we have two big fundraising events that we do to raise money that we use then for our own local grants that we give out, as well as participating a lot in matching grants that other clubs are applying for, as well as our own historically. And so I think the thing that I think we've always struggled with is that we probably usually have about 20% participation in the foundation, but we don't have, and there's no way to recognize at the broader Rotary level the strength of the commitment and from the dollar perspective of that giving to the local club. And so it's just an interesting dilemma that I think I'm just curious how other clubs address that, because I'm guessing that is an issue that other clubs face. Because I think if you would ask everybody in my club if they thought that Rotary was a philanthropic priority for them, I think the answer would be yes, but it's not measured that way in the way that the Rotary, the broader Rotary looks at it.
So let me make sure I've got this straight. People are donating more to your local foundation instead of Rotary International Foundation. Did I get that correct?
That's right. Yep.
And I don't know about other people, and hopefully everybody else will speak up. When I was up in Hayward, so I was in Hayward for 20 some odd years living there, but in the club up there for, I don't know, whatever, 13 years before I moved to St. Paul. So I can't talk about the St. Paul club because I don't know enough about them yet, but certainly in the Hayward club, there were people who really only wanted to give to the local foundation because they wanted all their money to stay locally. I think the biggest thing is talking about not the raising of funds, but the impact that it has. I think it was fabulous recently. I don't know how many people here got it, but the letter that went out from the district that said you gave money 3 years ago to the foundation. This is what that money did this year. I think it's those sorts of things to know the actual impact that money has, not just locally, but around the world. How it affected you. If your group went for a grant, they got money from that. That money wouldn't have been there if they didn't give to the foundation. But I do think a lot of it has to do with the impact that money makes.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, of course, and that is absolutely what we talk about. I think people understand that. It's just, and within our club, we do, I think, a nice job of talking about really thanking everybody and talking about the impact that we're making locally based upon the money that we're raising, as well as the money, because we really value giving to other people's district grants, because it's just a really good way for a small club to really maximize the dollars that we have available. So we talk about impact all the time. It's just that, there's just, and maybe it just, for our club, it's just gonna be, people just really like to give to our own individual Rotary Club, and that's where their heart is, and that's where their passion lies, and that's where their impact is. And it's, over time, maybe we'll be able to get people to think more broadly about giving to the foundation, but I don't know, I just have always struggled with
A couple things.
Curious what other clubs do about that.
Yeah, a couple things. Number one, there is a spot in Rotary Club Central for the last 3 years to enter in how many service hours and dollars a club has, let's call it, spent or contributed. So there is a measurement for that. So that can be measured. So at the end of the year, you could say our club our club has contributed X amount of time and Y amount of dollars to go back to our local community, and use that as a public relations tool. In fact, as Rotary International has tracked that, and they worked, Paul Perez, if he's still on here, would know more specifically on this one, but and I think it was Johns Hopkins University actually calculated the the value of the hours that Rotarians contributed. And it was something like $50 million worth of value is what we provided through our service. That's a significant way to recognize ourselves and keeping track of those things. I think from a Rotary Foundation perspective, though, like Dale said, it's important to help people understand and really understand this. And it's not a once a year thing, but it's an ongoing thing, because the clubs that are successful take subtle ways to talk about the impact of the Rotary Foundation. And clubs that are less successful only do it a couple times during the year, so it doesn't become repetitive or it's looked at as separate. But that impact of, this is our charity, this is us doing good in our communities and around the world, and really connecting that dot, that because of 1.2 million Rotarians around the world giving to the Rotary Foundation, that's why we were able to sponsor this project, because that's all of us working together. And when we give, we're able to do more here and around the world. And then it's actually asking the question, hey, Susan, or hey, Mike, or whomever, will you give something to the Rotary Foundation this year? And really making that the point, and not being apologetic about it, but making it that, hey, this is part of being a Rotarian, and you can decide how heavy-handed you want to be on that part of things. But it's really helping, showcase that impact and showing how easy it is to give and asking people to give. And that's the foundation coaches will be able to help with that too. And I think it does help to have an outside voice as well. If they may be, I can tell you from our club's perspective, we got sick of hearing from Paul for a number of years when he was our foundation chair. So we brought in people from the outside, and there are people that can help from that perspective as well.
Susan, did you say you're from West St. Paul, Mendota Heights Club?
Yep.
Okay, well, you are one of my clubs.
Great.
So when I sent out my introductory email, well, it's been a few weeks ago now, I didn't have your name. I had William McNally, who I think is your president. So my communication went to him.
That's right. Okay.
But I will reach out to you, and let's have a chat.
Could I quick bring up, I just went into my history while we were talking earlier, and seeing there where there's a name listed of the transfer to bring it up to 1,000. Are there thank yous that go to those people, or are they saying, hey, take my points? And is there a way of, or should there be a way of either the person getting it, acknowledging it to that person or not?
Mark, I will tell you that because I know who you're talking about, because I helped coordinate that. Certainly, if you wanted to send me an email, and I will forward it on to him with you in there as well, he would be delighted.
Okay, good.
I don't think, him specifically on that one, and others that are willing to have their points used, they're not in it for the pat on the back.
Right.
They're in it because they want more
understand.
people to give to the Rotary Foundation. But I think in any case, a thank you from their end, as we've said in a lot of different communication, we're using the points of our current generation of foundation champions to build the next generation. So knowing that it resonated with somebody, they're not going to turn that down.
So that'd be great if you'd forward that on to him. I'll send it to you. Thanks.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
A couple of thoughts. It's been difficult for me for these couple meetings to sit and say nothing. I want to say it's quite an honor when your son acknowledges something he learned from you in that cash formula. So I was pretty impressed with that. But I'd like to add to a couple things that were said. And obviously I'm from Prior Lake, and you hear enough about Prior Lake. But to those people, and there were several who indicated some sort of a hesitation to ask, or some sort of a conversation they had with someone who didn't want to be recognized, I would urge you to consider both as just kept those as caution signs, not stop signs. Because a person who is giving, when you share with them the importance of repetitively talking about the foundation and recognizing people and how other people gain from recognizing him, you'd be surprised how they will fall in line and say, it's okay. And when we go back in our club 6 or 7 years ago, when we had 1 or 2 major donors, and now we have 10, 9 or 10, and we had 6 or 8 society members, and now we have 30, it becomes a culture you develop. And it's not that you're asking people, but they see other people being recognized and thanked, as Paul Holstein said, on a frequent basis. It might be every 3rd meeting during the course of the year we're recognizing a Paul Harris Fellow. We don't hold them to a singular event. And when they see that, they're willing to step up front and accept that thank you, whether they're a first-time Paul Harris Fellow, they become a major donor or major donor plus. They realize we're all in this together and they know what the benefits are. So never be bashful about, using caution in that conversation, but say, hey, we need you. And I also said to one of my clubs just last week that one of the most important things that they need to do, they're a champion. They believe in the foundation. And there's a couple other people in their club. But the person I'm talking to is the foundation team leader, and he has no followers. He's a committee of 1. And I encourage them to go to these people who are givers to say, hey, I need your help. How can we together build a different culture within our club? And you'd be surprised by, they appreciate being asked to join a cause, if you will, and it pays huge dividends. And I think we could use our club as an evidence of that, starting with Paul Holstein 6 or 7 years ago when he changed how we did things in our club.
That puts us at 5:15. So I would like to thank you all for not only coming, but for staying around and talking. I actually think it's a great idea that perhaps there's more talks to occur because that means we're all interested in this and looking for more knowledge. So look for things like the midterm coming up in January, where there will be breakout sessions coming with these pillars. Please look at that information as it comes towards you. You will be receiving a survey as well as a resource sheet this evening or tomorrow. Please make sure that you fill that out, the survey, and get it back to us. I promise it is short and